Welcome to the First and 30 podcast. This is episode 46. Antonino, tell the chain movement what we're all about.
We're two 30-something-year-old guys giving you four offensive downs in 30 glorious minutes of NFL football insight to get you through your hump day.
That's right. Offensive downs through hump day. Dude, we are in the thick of all things glorious with football too. Playoffs are only 3 weeks away, so 3 weeks left of the regular season. But we have entered playoffs for fantasy football too. How are you feeling? Real quick before we hop into this, how are things settling on your end in the fantasy realm?
I was hoping you wouldn't bring this up, but I had a feeling you would. Not well, to answer your question. I'm sure we'll touch on it later, but I had a few mishaps and I just got bounced.
Oh, that's a bummer, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You were feeling so high and mighty going into the week. It's the worst too. You put all that prep work at the beginning of the season. You think you draft the championship team, and then a month into it, the reality sets in. Maybe this guy isn't as good as I thought he was gonna be. This guy's But that's the fun in it though too. How's it feeling though that the season, the reality set in? You don't have that to look forward to. You just have your lowly Bengals to cheer on and hope that they can pull off a miracle.
Well, for one, I scored 130 points in fantasy. Inflation is hitting fantasy just like real life. It just does. 130 points doesn't get you as much as it used to.
Yeah.
So that's a shame. And the Bengals, there's still hope alive there. Don't look now. We got a few weeks left. We went out. There's a chance. There's an open lit flame, and I will not give up on it.
That's good delusion for you. Good delusional fan right there. All right, man. Well, we have some cool stuff, obviously, to get into. A lot of great matchups this past weekend. And I think it's only fitting that we start first down off with the potential Super Bowl preview that we got to witness this past Sunday between the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. A 48-42 points scoring. This is what we expected, though. These are the two highest scoring teams in the NFL matching up against each other. I mean, it delivered, right? It delivered on all the hype. What was your reaction to this game?
Yeah, it was just that offensively offensive is the way I like to put it. No defense to be found.
No.
I turned the game on. It was already 14s at Buffalo. Next thing I know, it's 35-14 Buffalo. Just a point explosion towards the end. And I think we can all agree, and we talked about this before the show, we really want to see these two teams again. Could this be a precursor for a matchup in the Super Bowl? And I think we all want to see a new team get a ring this year.
Well, right. So if your team's not in the playoffs, my team, the Cowboys aren't going to make the playoffs. I'm looking at now who are the dark horses or the teams that are doing really well that just haven't been represented in the past. And these are those two teams. Like Buffalo, they've had the worst luck in history. 4 straight Super Bowls, lost all 4. What are the odds of that? And then on the other end, Detroit has just been such an awful franchise for so long. It's just really cool to see both of them being so competent and the front runners right now putting up points 48-42. I mean, Goff and Allen went off. The running game for Buffalo, like James Cook, I think he had over 50 yards after contact at one point. So, it was just fireworks all around. So with this game, though, in particular, Antonino, did you have any skin in the game? I know how you are with the odds fathers over there. You're putting money on stuff. Was there any skin in the game?
No. I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole, knowing how these guys can score points, and especially looking at the coach over there on one sideline, Dan Campbell. He's burned me in the past with his 4th down antics, and I'm sure he made a lot of people upset in this game. If you watched, there was 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. Buffalo's about to kick a field goal. It's 3rd and goal, 3rd and forever. They end up not getting it. The clock goes from 2:50 to 2:03 when they kick the field goal. They wasted 45 seconds. He could have called a timeout. Instead, 2:03 hits a 2-minute warning. Not enough time. They end up going down the field, the Lions, to get a touchdown to get it closer. But he really had a slip up, mental error, not calling timeout before the 2-minute warning.
Yeah. Well, the other kind of like negative detractor if you're looking at Detroit here walking away from this game. They gave up 48 points. So
Yeah.
that's a huge
Oof.
red flag. I mean, even Buffalo though. Buffalo just gave up what 44 the previous week against the Rams.
Yep.
So Buffalo and Detroit, they can each put up points. We've seen it. They're averaging over 30 points a game, lead the NFL, but they are getting bludgeoned on defense right now, which is a little worrisome as we're creeping toward the playoff. And I think particularly for Detroit, what I'm concerned about are just the injuries that are starting to pile up,
Mm.
especially defensively. You know, you lose Aiden Hutchinson for the season. There was another big injury to their defensive tackle, Liam McNeil, budding star for them. They lost him in this game too. It's just it's once those injuries start piling up, it's usually a game of attrition when we get to the
Yep.
playoffs. Who are the last men standing? Who's healthy going into the playoffs? And those are the teams that we see make a run when they have their healthy roster and squad.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because this happens every year. It's
Yeah.
whoever's healthiest towards the end of the year. And a lot of times there's teams that like, well, if this guy wasn't hurt, well, if that guy wasn't hurt, this is part of the game, folks. So it's going to happen. That's why rosters need to be deep. You have to have depth. And we're going to talk about a certain injury that happened in the Detroit backfield that they're glad they have that depth. Yep.
Well, right. I mean, not to spoil their thunder. I know you have this on our news segment later,
Yep.
but Montgomery, he's gone for the year.
Yep.
MCL. So you have Jahmyr Gibbs, next man up. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs, super talented. Everybody in the fantasy realm's been waiting for his opportunity to be the bell cow. But that's still worrisome because Montgomery had a very pivotal role here. This is a guy who has double-digit touchdowns on the season, almost 1,000 yards rushing too. So like, this wasn't just a slouch that they lost. They're losing some key players right now, and it's we're gonna have to see how this all plays out as we get closer to the playoffs, though.
Yep. Absolutely. And kind of on the other